Are you using all stratagems to their full potential? How can you get the most out of the jetpack? Is the relay shield really any good? How do you share resupplies with your squad and still come away with a full supply pack? I set out to explore these questions, and let me tell you folks, there were many instances where I found myself to be using stratagems wrong or perhaps not to its full potential. In this video, I'll be sharing a range of tips and tricks and unusual techniques that you can deploy to improve your game experience, and if you make it to the end of the video, I've got a mind-blowingly useful technique that I've only just learnt myself that allows us to use effectively double the amount of resupplies that you can take from one you've called down. Now, with that being said, let's get into it. First up, let's answer one of the questions from the start of the video. How good is the relay shield really? Well, if you watch my streams, you'll know my opinion. This is a very underused choice of stratagem that can easily turn the tides of battle against both bots and bugs in equal measure. Its most obvious scenario pick is when fighting against bots. Throw this down as a bot drop comes in with some decent distance between you and the danger zone, and you and your team are very quickly able to consolidate in a manner that allows you to confidently throw your stratagems in and follow up with some carefree barrages from your recoilless rifles, AMRs, laser cannons and such like. Some other things that I like to do with the relay shield is drop it next to some effective covers such as a rock formation or building. What this does is effectively extends the overall size of the cover you are using, with the added bonus that you can shoot through the area of extension the shield makes. It's also incredibly effective when pushing objectives of inconvenience. Pushing an anti-air emplacement that's heavily fortified? No problem. Just throw one of these down nearby at an angle where you or your squad mates can get into a position to put in the required damage output onto the AA guns. Make sure that you run into the shield and reap the benefits. Calling in a hell bomb on a gunship factory? No problem again. Just throw the shield down to protect the hell bomb as the timer counts down once you've primed it. This is even more effective when we talk about this in conjunction with the jetpack. More on that later. With the bots out of the way, the less obvious way that this can be used is against terminids. Whilst it can protect against things like bile spewers, bile titan spit, charger attacks, you can also use this as a kind of lure/mobile taunting device. Have you got a huge swarm chasing you? No worries. Just throw this down in front of you and keep running. The bugs will automatically begin attacking the relay generator battery as soon as they pass it, and this gives you the opportunity to turn around, throw stratagems in, and generally prepare yourself to start mowing them down the second the generator goes down, which will be very swiftly, particularly when your stratagems land. The beauty of this one, folks, is you tend to break the generator bubble and actually kill the mobs that are around the generator battery. You can also throw this into nests and draw the swarm to one side of the nest whilst placing a nuke on them and start closing the bug holes on the other side and move around in a nice, pleasant, orderly clockwise situation most of the time. And if that wasn't already enough, it can reflect bile titan spit, rendering the bile titan dead if you can get the timing of this right. Do not sleep on this one, folks. Give it a go and let me know what you think about it in the comments below. Next up, the jetpack. It cannot be understated just how useful and exciting this thing can be to use. Rather than explain what it is, I'm going to highlight some of the more nuanced tips and tricks that I've learned and picked up from comments, other content creators, and phase shift community members on stream and in Discord. Esper is one person in particular that I have learned a lot from. Go and check out their channel, folks. Fantastic information there. The distance in which you can travel with the jetpack is dictated by how much momentum you currently have at the time you jump. So essentially, whatever armor you are wearing will impact your top running speed. So if you're wanting to jump as far as possible, look at the speed stat on your armor when making your choice. This also means that if you attempt to jump with an empty stamina bar, you will also fall much shorter than you are truly capable of. On that same note, to maximize your jump distance and height, try to look out for little bits of terrain that allow you to run up them while sprinting. This can make a huge difference if you're trying to jump to an elevated area to set up for some support weapon shots, escape a wave of enemies, or perhaps leapfrog onto a console platform quickly. Avoid jumping when you are slowed too. Dive to get rid of the debuff. If you jump just as your stamina runs out, then crouch immediately after landing, you will regain and regen your stamina very swiftly. Ever wondered wondered how you can get more range on your throws without using servo armor? Well, the jetpack can get you this desired effect, folks. By throwing a stratagem at the top of your jump and or when also running forwards at top speed, you can dramatically increase the distance of your throw. This can be fantastic for throwing strikes into objectives or towards patrols before they can even become a threat. Finally, have you ever found yourself really frustrated getting shots off with a weapon when using the jetpack only to find it completely goes in the wrong direction? Yeah, me too, but I found it is possible with the correct timing to be able to jump and shoot at your target in midair, continue to do so throughout your landing. This makes using the jetpack in those pinch situations even stronger because it increases the uptime of our damage output to include even when we're in that retreat/reposition mode of play. To achieve this, you need to time pressing jump and the direction that you want to travel and fire at roughly the same time to make sure that this occurs. As simple as it sounds, it is quite difficult to get used to this timing in the heat of battle and does require developing a little bit of muscle memory. Again, folks, give it a try and let me know what you think. I'm sure you'll be really pleased with this one once you get it mastered. Before we move on to my most favored stratagem in the game, it would be really helpful if you could smash that like button and drop the channel a subscribe. It really helps me out. Thank you. The airburst is, in my opinion, one of the most slept on stratagems in the game. Whether you're facing off against bugs or bots, this stratagem has a place in all loadouts, in my opinion. I've been using this thing for ages, and I was quite surprised when some of the comments in one of my more recent loadout videos revealed that quite a lot of people hadn't realized how strong this can be, not only against bugs, but also against bots. If you can line up an airburst on top of a patrol of devastators, you will completely delete them with no trouble at all. You can also drop this on top of tanks, and if you're managing to hit the back vent, you can destroy or at least severely damage them. Combine this with an Eagle airstrike or an Eagle 500 kg and you will erase any automaton advance at the drop of a hat. Better yet, combine this with the shield relay discussed earlier and start throwing in support weapon volleys alongside this, and you will be so impressed with the speed in which you can deal with the advances. Aside from bots, the airburst is a match made in heaven for bug breaches. On higher difficulties, wait for 2 or 3 breaches to appear before you throw in your airburst and you will clean up most, if not all, of the initial torrent of swarming bugs. Whilst we're talking about the airburst, now would be a great time to make some honourable mentions which coincidentally also complement the airburst very well indeed. The recent buffs to damage over time effects has put the gas strike into an incredibly useful spot to use on bug breaches, and if you drop one of these alongside an airburst, this just amplifies how quickly you can deal with these situations. Better yet, some of the latest additions from the Polar Patriots Warbond also come in incredibly useful here. Throw an impact incendiary grenade in front of the breach and the gas, and there is no way anything is making it through it, especially if you begin peppering them with the new Pummeler SMG, which effectively knocks mobs backwards and can keep them in the fire and gas. It cannot be understated how strong crowd control can be when it is utilized in this way. Speaking of crowd control, this leads us on nicely to another weapon which I think is slept on by pockets of the community, and that is the blitzer shotgun. Upon first glance, the blitzer feels like a very one-dimensional weapon to use, but it is in fact a lot more nuanced than first meets the eye. The first huge tip I can give is resist the temptation to constantly ADS the blitzer. Not ADSing the blitzer, it appears to widen the spread, encouraging it to connect with enemies in a wider arc as opposed to a more focused small frontal cone. What it has revealed is that you can choose between focusing your shots in specific areas of a horde or becoming much more general in your cover of it. In most situations, I would advise using the non-ADS technique, as this is the much more fruitful choice when keeping space between you and your enemies, and it does appear to do more work against larger volumes of chaff much more quickly. Choose moments to ADS to focus the blitzer blast on targets like brood commanders and their armored heads. This allows you to rip through them much more quickly, and in addition to this, make sure you get used to kiting enemies with this weapon and don't be afraid to run sideways rather than backwards. Focus on making sure you are consistently getting shots off on swarms, and this will keep them crowd controlled and in their place for you and your team to mop things up. One of my first loves in this game was the grenade launcher, and I quickly learnt that pairing this with the supply pack was a one-way ticket to Spamville. Seriously, if you haven't tried the nade launcher out against bots or bugs with the supply pack, give it a go. If you get trigger happy, you will be gobsmacked at just how quickly you can delete waves of enemies without a second thought. The only real issue being how ammo hungry it is, and the fact that this can have quite a severe impact on your ammo economy within your team. However, there is a way to overcome this. Remember earlier when I mentioned the mind-blowingly useful resupply tip that I had just recently learnt myself? Well, here it is, and I can't take credit for it, folks. I actually picked this up from Thick Fillet in one of his recent videos where he referenced one of his dedicated community members, Lolosaurus, and their knowledge sharing around this topic. Shout out to Lolosaurus for this one, and thank you to Thick Fillet for once again teaching me, and hopefully now you, something totally new. So, what is this tip? Well, what you can do is call in a resupply, but drop your supply pack on the ground. Get each teammate to pick up the supply pack and then take a resupply. The reason for this is every time you pick up a supply with the supply pack on your back, it will resupply your ammo, and the resupply pack will also gain a charge, effectively doubling its use for each resupply pickup. Repeat this for every group member and ensure that they drop the supply pack for you, and all of you will end up with a resupply each and a full supply pack on your back, which really maximizes the ammo economy for the entire team. If you want to delve deeper into how some of these underrated stratagems work in loadouts, check out this next video, which showcases in much more detail how to use the blitzer and different backpack combinations efficiently. Take care of yourselves, keep having fun, and I'll see you in the next one.